There's a narrative gaining traction right now. Is Israel starving the Palestinians? Now, it's a serious accusation and one that's being repeated by influencers on social media, news outlets, and even global institutions. But it's not just misleading, it's deceptive.
Let's ask a basic question. What other country at war is expected to care for the civilians of the enemy population while still under attack? Israel is fighting a terror group that hides behind its civilians, yet it's still delivering hundreds of aid trucks into Gaza every day. Meanwhile, the world turns a blind eye to the 50 hostages still being held, many without food, medical care, or even sunlight.
So our guest today is Yair Pinto. He's an IDF reservist, an Israeli follower of Jesus, Yeshua, and he's been on the front lines, both literally and in the information war. He's just returned from the Gaza border. He was there bringing firsthand perspective about what's really happening with the humanitarian aid, how Hamas is manipulating the system again, and why the media continues to ignore Israel's efforts.
Yeah. Now, this isn't about spin. It's about truth, and truth matters, especially when lives are on the line.
So we invite you to listen carefully. If you've been confused about the headlines, you're discouraged or even frustrated by what's going on, this episode, we hope, will bring clarity. It's time to cut through the noise.
Let's get into it. Welcome to the Jewish Road podcast.
Shalom. Welcome to the Jewish Road podcast. We had an opportunity to talk to Yair Pinto from TBN Israel, boots on the ground, and we happened to get him in between, and he is driving to go pick up his wife for a little date night. But
exactly. Very important, guys, by the way. I mean, never neglect date nights.
That's right. Even with work, even going back and forth to Gaza as a soldier in the reserves. And so I've been following you in the work that you and Mati Shoshani are doing on TBN Israel. And, rather than just taking everything that we see in the media, and we're getting a lot of people who are saying, what is going on? Is Israel starving the Palestinians? It feels like it's just one lie after another, but saw that you were down there and said, well, let's have a conversation about this and dispel some of the myths and the lies and bring the truth. But give a little background. Who are you? And what have you been doing over since October 7th and maybe even before that?
Okay, so my name is Yair Pinto. I'm an Israeli Jew, was born and raised in Jerusalem. I believe in Jesus, in Yeshua, as the Messiah of the Jewish people and everybody around the world. And like my fellow Israelis, on October 7th, I was in my house, 6 a.m., waking after the celebrations of Simchat Torah, a Jewish high holiday, one of the holiest days of the year, to the sirens alarms that started from missiles that are being launched into Israel. Lots and lots of missiles also to Jerusalem, which is usually not happening so much. It's usually to the Gaza area. That was a very, very different day for all of us. Then we turned on the TV and we saw the terrorists infiltrating into Israeli cities and kidnapping Israeli civilians, including women, children, and the elderly. That's how this war started. And I think it's very important to remind people why we are fighting in Gaza, why the IDF is maneuvering inside the Gaza Strip, because people forget. And that's the reason why it all started. So on the day of October 7th, I got a call from my officer calling me that I need to report to my base, get my orders, get my equipment, my gear, my gun, and become a soldier again for an unknown amount of time. I mean, we've been used to being called for, specific amounts, a month, 2 months, something that is like bordered, but this was something else. This was like, we have no clue. We have terrorists in the country, and we need the soldiers to come and defend Israel. I was called to the north because the major fear was that this is going to be a multi-layered attack from Hezbollah and Hamas at the same time. So Israel was preparing for a major attack coming from the north of Israel by Hezbollah, which at the time was the largest terrorist organization in the world. Okay, since then we were able to dismantle their leadership and their infrastructure, thank God. So they are very, very weak now. And as I started this journey, I realized really fast that the world is not getting the full picture and is believing the lies that Hamas and all their supporters are spreading about Israel. And after less than a week, the empathy and the support that Israel got, maybe for a few days or even a few hours after this war started, ended.
Yeah.
And I realized that this war is being fought on multiple fronts and I have to do something about it. So together with another member of my team, we decided, okay, let's upload daily videos from the front lines using my phone of what's happening, encouraging people to pray for the situation because it's a spiritual war. So we did that 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, and then it kept on going. And today I recorded video number 666. Just today was the more than 600 days of this war. So, and God really blessed our journey with viewership. Now, the team grew. We are doing better quality. I think that my English got a lot better because I had to speak English and practice for so many days. But sadly, we are still losing this front. We are still losing the battle for the truth of what's happening in Israel. That's why it's so important what you are doing, what your ministry is doing, sharing what's happening in Israel. And listen, I spend my days on interview after interview and recording video after video. Today, this is my fourth video that I'm recording since this morning, sharing about what's happening in Gaza, sharing about what Israel is doing in this war and who we are fighting against. I think it's super important. And despite all these lies that are being spread around the world that Israel is starving the Gazan population, the reality is so different. And I traveled to Gaza 2 days ago into the humanitarian area where the humanitarian aid is being delivered from Israel into Gaza, and is sitting there and waiting for the United Nations to get the food and deliver it to the Gazan population. So I'm sure we're going to have a few questions about that. I'll let you ask.
Well, lately this is the question that everybody is sending to us right now. Is they're sending us screenshots and headlines that Israel is starving the Palestinians. Give me a little sense of, how does the food come? Where does it come from? Trump is saying, the United States, we're sending all kinds of money, but where's the food coming from? Where does it come in through Israel? How does Israel get that into Gaza? And then why? What's this distribution logistics? Why is this so hard to get the food to the people?
Okay, it's a very, very good question. So I'll start with, how is it actually happening logistically? So from the day one that this war started, Israel was doing two things: battling the Hamas terrorist organization and making sure that humanitarian aid is entering constantly into the Gaza Strip. And I'm talking about hundreds of trucks every day entering from Israel, from the border crossings of Israel into Gaza, a country that just invaded our citizens and still has hostages of our own. Okay, so this is what Israel has been doing since day one, feeding the Gazan population. Okay, so what happens? A truck comes from Israel filled with goods. By the way, Israeli goods. I was there. All the writing is in Hebrew and in English, and some in Arabic also, but Hebrew on everything. Tuna cans, flour, sugar, corn, baby formula, tons and tons. Football stadiums filled with pallets on pallets of this food, okay? So Israel is bringing this food into the Gaza Strip. Of course, it's paid by humanitarian organizations, the United Nations and stuff like that. Israel then offloads the cargo in the Gaza side of the border, okay, and make sure that are no weapons or, I don't know, ammunitions, rockets, and anything that the terrorist organization is trying to smuggle into the Gaza Strip. Okay? After it's been checked, then it is placed in this huge, it's kind of like a port. So into this area, the trucks of the United Nations are coming and they need to get the food on the trucks and deliver it to the Gazan population. Okay? So what's happening is after these trucks are being loaded and sent into Gaza, the Hamas terrorists are waiting and looting these trucks immediately, stealing them with AK-47 guns, and then they take these trucks and then they sell the goods at inflated prices, very, very high prices, back to the Palestinian people. And that's how the Hamas terrorist group is making money. That's how they feed their terrorists. That's how they are recruiting young terrorists in their ranks by promising them food for them and for their family. So this is the situation. What Israel is trying to do in the past few months is to create a different way of delivering the humanitarian aid to the Gazan population, a way that will actually help the people of Gaza and make sure that the food reaches those that need it and not the Hamas terrorist organization. Okay, so what Israel did together with the GHF, which is a humanitarian organization based in the United States of America, is that creating distribution centers inside areas of Gaza. So Israel created, together with the GHF, 4 distribution centers in Gaza. In these centers, the Palestinian people are arriving, showing their ID, and each family gets a box filled with humanitarian aid, food that lasts for a few days for up to 7 people per family. And the IDF is making sure that Hamas does not destroy these places, making sure that these places are protected. But the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation has its own security personnel, which are former US Marines and other military personnel that are inside these centers. The IDF is further away from these centers, making sure that the perimeter is secured. Okay, this has been working beautifully, reaching millions of people in Gaza with food directly without Hamas stealing the food. Hamas does not like that at all. They hate that because without the humanitarian aid, they have no more money. They have no ways of recruiting new fighters, new terrorists to their ranks. And they are losing the grip over the Palestinian population because the Palestinian population does not need them anymore. They go and they get the food for themselves. So Hamas does not like that. So what they do, first of all, they are sending gunmen and terrorists dressed in civilian clothing to these distribution centers and hide them amongst the crowds of thousands of Gazan population, tens of thousands. These gunmen already threw 2 grenades at the United Nations, at the GHF humanitarian workers, and injured 2 security guards, American citizens, by the way, not Israelis, in the process. Moreover, they launched an attack against a bus of Palestinians that were employed by the GHF, the US-based humanitarian organization, to distribute the food. They launched an attack against them and wounded some of them and warned the rest not to help Israel, not to help this organization give food to the Gazan population. Okay? And the sad part about all of this is that the United Nations, instead of supporting this new method of delivering aid, keeps insisting that it want to go back to the old ways of sending the trucks into Gaza and having Hamas terrorists loot them and then sell the food back to the Gazan population. And I'm saying to the point that when I was in the Gaza Strip, the food, the amounts of food that I've seen there was sitting in the sun for more than 2 weeks, some of it rotting. And at the same time that the world is saying that Israel is starving the Gaza people, while the United Nations refused to send the trucks in Gaza to bring the food to the Palestinian people because they were complying with this false narrative that Hamas was spreading that Israel is starving Gaza. It's so bad, it's just terrible to see. It was so sad. Even the United Nations um, high-ranking leader announced that if baby formula and food does not reach Gaza within the next 48 hours, he had this statement, thousands of babies in Gaza will die. And I was there at the Center for Distribution of Aid, just across the border inside Gaza. And I saw tons of baby formula pallets with the symbol of the United Nations, meaning the food is in Gaza already, but you're not willing to send the truck to give it to the people. And then you blame Israel. It's so sad. And the saddest thing is that these lies are working. What do we hear just now? That France, that Canada, that the United Kingdom are now about to announce a Palestinian state, whatever that means. I don't know. In the United Nations General Assembly in September. So they are basically rewarding Hamas for launching terrorist attacks and for waging a terrorist war, for stealing the food of their own people. They are rewarding their efforts. So why would they reach a ceasefire agreement with Israel? They have no reason to. They get everything without their ceasefire agreement. So,
So, I have a thousand questions, but here's the first one. Let's talk about the journalists. What Israel's been accused of is that they are not allowing international media to go in and to cover this story. And on the other side of things, if you look at the media, the journalists that are inside of Gaza right now, they are all working for and employed by Hamas. But Israel did change this and did recently allow international journalists to come in. But can you talk about the weight and the shift of all of that, what that looks like? Who's allowed to say what?
yeah, definitely. So listen, the Gaza Strip is a tiny strip of land that is very dangerous, really booby-trapped, with terrorists launching attacks against Israel on a daily basis. We have soldiers dying there every day since this war started. Even this week, and there's incidents all the time because it's an active war zone. Every place, every house, every neighborhood has a tear tunnel somewhere. They store the weapons inside the schools, inside the United Nations buildings, inside the children's cribs. Really, I've been in Gaza. I've been there for 4 months in the Gaza Strip, in this war. I've seen these things personally, not inventing. So the IDF does not allow journalists, international media, to enter the war zones in Gaza because of this reason. It's very dangerous. And Hamas will not hesitate to kill international journalists because he will do it. And then, of course, he will blame Israel and the world will believe them
Right.
again. So for Israel wants to protect the international media, that's one. Israel does not allow also its own journalists to go inside there unless they're part of the IDF. And then Hamas will not hesitate or think twice before they kill the journalists of the international media. Okay? But Israel did allow journalists to enter Gaza, with me also, to the humanitarian area to see the food, to see the amounts of food that Israel allows and brings into Gaza. And we had a good conversation with the IDF's spokesperson. And he said that not only does Israel allow the food to come into Gaza, we are also pausing the war, okay? Stopping the war in certain areas in order to make sure that the humanitarian aid convoys reach their destination in the neighborhoods of Gaza. So imagine the IDF soldiers. They are fighting basically with one hand with a gun, and the other hand is giving food to the enemy. This is the situation in
Mm.
Israel. And we are getting all the blame for doing that.
Hmm.
So, and for the situation in Gaza, listen, the Gazan people, Palestinian people are suffering. No doubt about it. Suffering. But they're suffering because of Hamas. Because they voted in, and sadly, they would still vote again, according to recent polls, for a terrorist organization to rule them instead of being under any other leadership that does not seek the destruction of Israel. So, this is the situation. And moreover, just to battle this increase of media, the IDF decided to invest some of its airplanes in sending and airdropping food into Gaza. So imagine that. Imagine in World War One. Okay, imagine Ukraine sending humanitarian aid to Russia in the middle of a war. Imagine that.
Right.
This is like the comparison.
Right.
So it's just very very hard and very depressing to think about it. Unless, and I was like shocked about this for a long time. I was praying also, God, why is the world believing the lies of a terrorist organization and not the only democratic state in this region in the Middle East? The only one. And then I realized this is a spiritual war. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
Israel does not have natural resources. We do not have gold. We do not have oil. We are a tiny, tiny, tiny country, which still people think that we are like colonization country. We're like, we're the tiniest country almost. I try Googling us on the map. There's no room for the name Israel on Israel. This is how small we are. Okay.
That's right.
And I realized it's a spiritual war, and the enemies of Israel are trying to destroy God's promises because God promised Israel since the time of Abram that he will bring us back to this land, and he has. The nation of Israel and the Jewish people came back to the land of Israel after 2,000 years of diaspora. Same people, same language, same land. This is an amazing miracle, and the enemy cannot stand that. And that's why he's launching all these attacks against Israel. That's why when you turn your TV, you see Israel, because it's on God's eyes and it's also on the eye of the devil. And they want to destroy this land because it's living proof of God's faithfulness to the Jewish people, to the people of Israel, and to each and every one of you, whoever you're watching this show from wherever you are. Because if God is faithful for so many years to the people of Israel, despite the fact that many of the Israelis do not believe in him, then that means that he will be faithful to you with whatever it is that you are going through. This is what it is. It's a spiritual war. But on the good side, every time you have trouble in your life, every time, just open the news or Google TBN Israel or whatever on YouTube, see the miracles that God is doing. I'm talking about biblical level miracles that God is doing today in modern days in the state of Israel. We were attacked by 7 different fronts together as tiny Israel. I'm talking about Hezbollah, Hamas, the Houthis, Iranian militias in Syria, Iranian militias in Iraq, Iran itself, 92 million people against tiny Israel of 10 million people. Okay, and we are still here, and we won these wars with unbelievable Mossad operations, spy, enough material to create a million movies about what happened. It's not because the IDF is so smart. It's only because God is faithful and he does amazing miracles to the people of Israel in modern days. So Israel is doing the job that God intended for it since the time of Abraham, which is to be a living example of of God's faithfulness to the entire world. That's what you read in the Bible. You read the story of the people of Israel doing bad, enemies coming, attacking Israel, and God comes and rescues them again and again and again. Not because we deserve it, but because He is faithful. That's it. God didn't change. The enemies of Israel did not change. It's just living proof and a reminder. What I like about God, is that He knows that we are forgetful people. We need reminders all the time, all the time, all the time. And that's what He's doing now. He's reminding us that He's here. He's watching over us. He did not forsaken his promises. So I think this is like what I take from this war. And sadly, we need to know that the enemy is not creative. He's doing the same things. He's using deception, he's using lies, and he's using the media to spread his false propaganda to try to get people away from God. That's what it's all about.
It's amazing because if you are only listening to this and you're not watching and you don't see Yair's face, there's joy and there's a smile. Maybe because he's going on a date with his wife tonight. But what is it like though for you, Yair? Like we expect a certain level of deception and lies from the enemies of Israel. Like that's always been there. Like no surprises there. What is it like for you as you look out on the church, the evangelical church, and you are hearing and seeing things that are undermining that the promises that God made to Israel are for the church, it's not for Israel, that the modern day Israel is not the Old Testament people that God really set up, all of these things that are coming, and it's from those who we would expect to be our friends and loving and supporting us. I know I feel that very acutely here because we're seeing that even in the church, even from pastors who are so good and so right on so many things, but they miss the Israel piece and therefore they miss everything.
Exactly, exactly. Listen, I think that the key issue here is that sadly, the enemy has infiltrated the church as well. And he's trying to bring people away from God's promises, from God's words. We need to remember that everything that God is saying is eternal. He doesn't change like us, with the wind or with every day we believe or decide something new. We need to stop thinking of God as a human. I mean, he's above time. He doesn't change. He doesn't have our flaws. And I don't know how you can think that Israel is not relevant when you believe in the Bible. It's just like it's the same thing. I'm speaking Hebrew, the same language that they spoke in the Bible. I am going to my office and I see the Temple Mount. I'm 5 minutes away from the southern steps where Jesus walked, where he taught, where he preached. Like it's all there and it's all connected. And Israel is just a reinforcement of our belief. The fact that Israel exists now is proof that our faith is real, that God is real, that he still performs unbelievable miracles in modern days. And if you miss that, then you miss the best parts about God. You know.
Take off your role as TBN Israel guy. Take off your role as an IDF soldier. Just as an Israeli, how do you feel about Palestinians in general? You have met Palestinians. What is the overall Israeli sentiment towards the people within Gaza there? And what have you seen coming from the people who are not Hamas towards you, even as a soldier when you were in there?
So living in Jerusalem, I'm constantly in interaction with Palestinians. It's kind of hard to explain, but Israel, Jerusalem, Judea and Samaria, you have Palestinians and Israelis living side by side, working together. There are no walls. There's no us and them. It's all like intertwined. You have Palestinian neighborhoods in Jerusalem, and you have Jewish neighborhoods in Jerusalem, and you have Palestinians working with Jews, and vice versa. So, on a personal level, I have no problem. I'm working with them, play basketball with them. It's all good. But as a nation and as a people, sadly, the majority of Palestinians still support Hamas, even today, even after 2 years of war. And that's all across the board, in Judea and Samaria and in the Gaza Strip. Polls were conducted, and Hamas would get reelected now, even after all the destruction in Gaza. This is how hard the brainwashing is taking place in the Gaza Strip. Basically, and not just in the Gaza Strip, also in Judea and Samaria, in the Palestinian Authority. You read the textbooks that they are teaching their kids, it's all about the full Israel. It's all about getting back to our land that the Zionists, so-called, quote quotes, took from us. It's all about armed resistance. It's not about peace. It's not about coexistence. And it's not about living side by side. It's about basically taking all of Israel from the river to the sea, which means the annihilation of the Jewish people in this land. That's what it means. Sadly, this is a very catchy phrase. That's why we hear it on United States campuses and European campuses. Smart kids chanting these slogans, making this false connection between Hamas, a radical Islamic terrorist group that does not stand by any liberal values that these kids stand for, and project them as these freedom fighters. I mean, Gaza is it's like it's a terrible place. It's been like that for 20 something years since Israel withdrew from the Gaza Strip and gave it to the Palestinians. It became the world's largest military terrorist base. Every second house, 400 kilometers of underground terror tunnels. Imagine how much investment you need into building this underground metro of terror tunnels instead of investing in the people. Hamas has been stealing the money and the future of the Gazan children and Palestinian people for more than 20 years. So what, you think that now that it's against the wall, now it's starting to be good to the people of Gaza? The Palestinian people in Gaza were dependent on humanitarian aid forever. That's how they operate. And it's very sad. It's very sad that the leadership of the Palestinian people are using their own people to get money from the world. And then they are living in hotels in Qatar, in Turkey, in other places around the world, and give nothing to the Palestinian people that are suffering. And at the same time, investing in brainwashing them so that they think that Israel is to blame for everything. So it's very hard to explain because the majority of Palestinians hate Israel and they were all chanting, happy, celebrating on October 7 when Hamas launched its attacks against the Jewish people. Everybody, not just the Hamas terrorists, the majority of the Palestinian people in Gaza. It's sad. Of course that, you cannot say that everybody, but as a people group, that's the situation. It's because of brainwashing. It's because of a demonic spirit that has taken over the Gaza Strip for more than 20 years. So I think that the only way is to
And
have a better education for these people for at least a generation away from Gaza so that they can have a future. And many Gazans are leaving the Gaza Strip and trying to find a better future for themselves.
yeah, what everyone's forgetting, and the thing that's not being said, and you're saying it, and you're saying it really clearly. What kind of nation would attack another nation and then tell that nation, you have to continue to supply our water, supply our electricity, and make sure that we have food? There is no war, there's no battle where that has ever taken place, and that double standard is there. But I don't hear anybody saying, well, what about the Israeli hostages who are in these tunnels, who've been underground for almost 2 years now? Are they being fed? And we've seen from those who've been released that they are emaciated, they are skinny, they are not being fed. Why is nobody talking about that?
Well, that's a very, very sad thing that's happening. And sadly, it happened super fast. So what we are seeing now is the rise of anti-Semitism around the world. That's what it is. So there's these campaigns of anti-Israel propaganda, and immediately, boom, it turns into anti-Semitism, hatred against the Jewish people, hatred against Israel, and nobody cares about why it started. The fact that Israel is fighting to release the hostages, the fact that we still have 50 hostages in Gaza, 20 of them are supposed to be alive for now, but the clock is ticking. We need to get them back home. The hostages there. Wouldn't you A French person wants your government to do everything it can to rescue you if you were abducted by a terrorist organization and kept in a tunnel for more than 2 years. Do you think it's cool to just stop the fighting? Let's bring our forces back to Israel. Let Hamas continue. They are still now, at this very day, claim that they will launch more attacks against Israel. So does Iran. So does the Houthis. The terrorists of Israel, they don't say, they don't want to agree to a ceasefire. They don't want to stop the fighting. Then why should we? I mean, it's like committing suicide.
Let's wrap it here. But where does this go? How does this end? What's next? What are you hoping for?
Okay, so the moment we are waiting for decisions to be made in the Israeli government, the IDF completed its objectives of all the tasks that it had until now. The decision needs to be made either to increase the pressure against Hamas, and that means to conquer the Gaza Strip completely, meaning no more Hamas. IDF is in charge of everything in the Gaza Strip, including giving the food, including civil administration, everything. It's basically complete conquer of the Gaza Strip. Until now, the IDF did not went into central areas in Gaza City and in the Palestinian camps because of fear that the hostages are kept there. Most likely they are kept there because Hamas is keeping them surrounded by civilians. And if the decision is made to push towards that direction, it will risk the hostages' lives, but it will mean defeating Hamas. This is a political decision. I do not envy the leaders of Israel, the leaders of the United States that need to make this very, very tough decision now. So I encourage you guys to pray for wisdom to our leaders, to the leaders of Israel, to pray for wisdom to your leaders in this situation. It's very, very hard situation. I don't have the answers. My hope is that we will not leave Gaza before Hamas is destroyed, before our security is kept for the long term. Listen, I have kids. I have a 2-year-old, a 5-year-old, a 7-year-old. I don't want them to run to bomb shelters 3 times a week like we do now. It's
Mm.
not good. Listen, it's not good. It's not normal. The fact that Israelis are living in it and I'm like smiling 10 minutes after a rocket is intercepted above me is not a normal situation. I don't wish this on anybody. By the way, I think it's
Yeah.
another miracle that God is doing that we are resilient in living in this condition and still being sane, happy. But it has a mental toll on you for sure, and for sure on the children. So my second ask for a prayer is for the children of Israel to still have some innocence in their lives, that I will not need to explain to them why are people wanting to attack us with rockets, people that have never ever met a Jew or an Israeli. None of these Houthis ever met an Israeli or a Jew, I promise you, but they hate us with passion. It's a spiritual war. And the hardest thing that I think that God placed on my heart in recent, I think, weeks and almost a month is to pray for my enemies. It's very hard. But I thought about, okay, how can I pray for them? And then, I got the answer. Okay, I don't need to pray for them to succeed in destroying
Mhm.
us. I need to
Right.
pray for them to have a change of heart. That instead of hating Israel, starting to love Israel, because God can do that. He can change their heart, and if He reveals Himself to them, they will start to feel the love for the Jewish people, for the people of Israel. And I think that will bring, an end for this war. So I would pray for the peace of Jerusalem. This is kind of a combination of
Mm.
stuff that includes.
Yeah. You start to look at the situation around the world and you look at how outnumbered Israel is in the world, and especially where you are. You are a nation that is the size of, we say, Lake Erie or New Jersey. And it's just imagine Ohio is right there attacking you every single day, and you're getting rockets and all of this stuff. And you start to think, we are not going to kill our way out of this problem. And I don't think Israel wants to do that. Israel does not want to destroy and kill everybody who is against her. Israel wants to live in peace. And really, the better tactical plan is not better military. It's that the Lord will come and he will reach these people and that they would be saved. And they will know that God is the God of all of the earth, and he's still the God of Israel. And so we join you in that prayer. So thankful that you would, on your drive home, and going to kiss your 3 beautiful babies and your wife on your date night. Thank you for just sitting with us here at the last minute and just give us what we're wanting is some truth. We want to be able to tell the truth to what's happening there, and to let people know to stay strong and to continue. We say Shalom Shalom Yerushalayim, to pray for the peace of Jerusalem. So God bless you, Yair. Thank you for coming on the Jewish Road Podcast.
Thank you.
Shalom.